In 2007, researchers set up something almost too simple to matter. A table. 2 chocolates. A premium truffle, 15 cents. An ordinary Hershey's Kiss, 1 cent. Most people chose the truffle. That makes sense. Better chocolate, still cheap. Then they changed one thing. They dropped both prices by 1 cent. And the decision flipped completely. Most people chose the worst chocolate, not because it improved, because it hit zero. That is the power of free. When something costs even 1 cent, your brain does the math. Is it worth it? Do I want this? What am I giving up? When something costs nothing, the math disappears. You stop feeling like a customer and start feeling like someone receiving a gift. Free does not lower the price. Free removes the question. And here's the thing, the internet is not handing out gifts. Every search, every map route, every video, it all runs through physical machines, servers, cooling systems, data centers that now consume electricity on the scale of entire nations. Google handles trillions of searches. YouTube absorbs hundreds of hours of new video every minute. Someone pays for all of it. You see zero, they see billions in costs. But then you have to ask a harder question. What are advertisers actually buying? The simple answer is attention. The more accurate answer is prediction. In 2020, a former Google policy designer named Tim Hwang published a book called Subprime Attention Crisis. His argument wasn't that online ads never work. It was more unsettling. They may not work nearly as well as the industry claims. The data is messy, targeting fails, clicks mislead, and the companies selling the ads are often the same companies measuring whether they work. Then there's eBay. In 2012, they ran an experiment, turned off paid search ads across a large portion of the US for 60 days. Sales barely moved. Customers were going to find eBay either way. Google's own research concluded the opposite. Same industry, opposite answers. This is where the model gets harder to explain. If advertising is perfectly effective, the story makes sense. But if it's messier than advertised, if the returns are questionable, then something else must be holding the machine together. And that something else is the system that claims it can predict behavior at scale. Not the ad itself, the prediction. And to build better predictions, the system needs one thing before anything else. It needs you to keep using the product. Which brings us to design. Tristan Harris, a former design ethicist at Google, argued that the real business model was never advertising exactly. It was the capture of human attention, because attention is scarce and content is infinite. The platform that holds your attention longest has the most valuable thing to sell. And once attention becomes the resource, the product stops asking what's best for the user and starts asking what keeps the user here. Outrage keeps people here. Fear keeps people here. Social comparison keeps people here. A notification, a half second of uncertainty, keeps people here. Sean Parker, Facebook's founding president, later described social media as exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. A little reward, a little uncertainty, a reason to check again. That line is disturbing because it didn't come from a critic. It came from someone who helped build the room. But that still doesn't explain the money, because attention is hard to measure, hard to verify, and sometimes willingly given. If the product is just attention capture, the economics are fuzzy. There has to be something more concrete, something you can actually sell. And that's where the story gets stranger. In 2012, a statistician at Target built a model. The model could estimate, with unsettling accuracy, whether a customer was pregnant based entirely on purchasing patterns. Unscented lotion, supplements, cotton balls, hand sanitizer, ordinary items combined created a signal. According to the widely reported account, a father in Minneapolis complained after Target sent baby-related coupons to his teenage daughter. Later, he apologized. His daughter was pregnant, she hadn't told him. The model had seen the pattern first. The important part isn't that Target knew one fact, it's how they knew. She didn't type it into a form, she didn't volunteer anything. Enough small behaviors, a purchase, a timing pattern, a change in routine, a cluster of ordinary choices became readable. That is the real word for what's happening. Legibility, the condition of becoming readable to a system you cannot read back. Not data, not attention, legibility. And once you see that, the business model snaps into focus. Here is the machine. Free creates scale. Scale creates behavior. Behavior creates data. Data creates models. Models create predictions. Predictions create profit. Profit keeps the product free. Free brings in more scale. That's not a trick, that's a loop. And every part strengthens the next. This is why free products are so hard to compete with. A paid competitor can build a better tool, but it cannot recreate years of behavior. Your friends, your messages, your watch history, your saved locations, your preferences, your patterns. The switching cost isn't money. The switching cost is you, the version of you that already lives inside the system. Cory Doctorow calls what happens next enshittification. Platforms follow a predictable cycle. First, they're good to users because they need users. Then they're good to business customers because they need revenue. Then, once everyone is logged in, they extract from both. More ads, worse feeds, less control. The product slowly gets worse, but remains impossible to leave because your friends are there, your photos are there, your memories are there, your audience is there, your identity, in small pieces, is there. The platform doesn't just own your attention, it owns the environment where your attention has somewhere to go. But even that doesn't fully explain the money. For that, we need one of the clearest accidents in internet history, a permission pop-up. In 2021, Apple changed one thing. Apps had to ask before tracking you across other companies' apps and websites. A pop-up appeared. Ask app not to track. Most people said no. Meta later warned the change would create a roughly $10 billion revenue headwind. Not because Facebook disappeared, not because Instagram stopped working, because one layer of cross-app tracking became harder. That number, $10 billion, exposed the hidden plumbing. A massive part of the free model wasn't just what you did inside the app. It was what you did everywhere else. The retail site you browsed, the article you read at 11 p.m., the product you almost bought, the app you opened after closing another app. Your behavior outside the product made the product more profitable inside the system. That doesn't prove every ad works. It proves something more important. The ability to track, model, and predict behavior across your entire life is so valuable that losing some of it shows up in the financial statements. The app was never just an app, it was a sensor. Netflix is useful here because Netflix is not free. You pay for it, but it uses the same architecture. One episode ends, a countdown begins, the next episode starts unless you stop it. Researchers found that when autoplay was turned off, people watched less. Sessions became shorter. Users took more time between episodes. Not because anyone forced them, because the pause came back. The moment of choice returned. That's the part worth noticing. The issue isn't always addiction in the dramatic sense. It's not always manipulation you can point to and say, that's wrong. Sometimes it's softer. The product removes the pauses where you might have asked yourself what you actually wanted. Then it replaces your decision with momentum. And momentum almost always flows in the platform's direction. So, what is the price of free? It's not exactly your data. Data gets things wrong. It's not exactly your attention. Attention is contested, hard to measure, sometimes willingly given. It's not exactly your privacy. Privacy sounds like something hidden in a drawer. This is more active. The price is behavioral legibility, the condition of being known, modeled, and predicted inside someone else's system. Your patterns become readable. Your hesitation becomes readable. Your boredom becomes readable. Your weak moments become readable. Your preferences become readable before you've fully explained them to yourself. What you click when you're tired, what you watch when you're lonely, what you almost buy before payday, what headline stops your thumb, what comparison changes your mood, what time of night your standards shift. Not all of it is accurate. Some models are wrong, but at scale, it doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be profitable. That's why "you are the product" is incomplete. A product is finished. A product sits on the shelf. You are not a product. You are the input. The product is the prediction, the probability that you will click, watch, buy, return, or change your mind. The product is not you as a person, it's you as a pattern. And once a company can model the pattern, the free product has already done its job. There's a story business schools tell about King Gillette: give away the razor, sell the blades forever. The internet built something stranger than a razor. You can't hold it. You can't point to the exact moment you paid. There's no receipt, no checkout line, no visible exchange. The trade happens quietly. Harris says the problem is design. Dr. Rao says the problem is power. Huang says the market might be overvalued. Shoshana Zuboff says the deeper issue is a market for predictions about future behavior. They cannot all be completely right. They might all be partially right. But every framework circles the same uncomfortable fact. The terms were never clear when you signed up. You agreed to something, but what you agreed to is still being worked out by researchers, regulators, courts, advertisers, and companies themselves, mostly in private, using data you generated inside systems you'll never fully see. That is the price of free. You're still finding out what you paid.